this is the wrong way to teach the gospel. Giving all praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Bashim Makakodash. This is from, I'm gonna make this short. This is IUIC Little Rock, which is Little Rock, Arkansas. I've been through there. People are backwards. Anyway, IUIC, hashtag IUIC First Baptist Church in, what is that, Earl, Arkansas, attacks the prophets, then called cops to falsely accuse them. Okay, let's listen to a little bit of it. Okay, he said private property. Who told you to get on our private property? I don't know if this is their property. Maybe it is, maybe it ain't. But they're out of, the IUIC is completely out of order for going on their property if they say get off of our property. But I don't know what the backstory is. Maybe this is to the public. I don't know. So let's listen to a little bit more, and I'm gonna give you one precept and then I'm gonna close. Okay, there's about, the Mosai said, he's not, Paul said, the Lord is not the author of confusion. This is nothing but confusion. Nothing but confusion. These Jakes, the bishop or whatever, where is he? I believe he's right here. He wanted to actually go and fight him. And one of them said, this is private property. As soon as they said that, you're supposed to close up and leave, because they, if that's their part of their property, if that's actually part of their property, then you can be arrested because you're trespassing. But this is what Bishop Nate told him. He has an attack. He's going directly to the churches and attacking them, you know, to get the word. But is this the gospel? Which one of these people, let me bring it back and get a bigger crowd here. Let me bring it back a little bit more. Okay, these are like most of the members of the church. Give me a second. Let me bring it over here. Let me bring it over here to the beginning. Okay, you see, this is the bishop. He call himself a bishop, and he's ready to, you know, they hold him back. He's ready to get, you know, go to fisticuffs. So let's listen a little bit of this. And this is completely out of order and not of the gospel. And just like what Vocab does when he rolls up on the different Israelite camps, groups, and stuff. He's completely out of order because there's scriptures that, it says in Matthew 7, it says, give not that which is holy unto dogs. Give not thy pearls to swine, neither that which is holy unto the dogs, because they will rend what you give them, paraphrasing, and then they will come and rend you. They will trample upon what you're giving them, and then they will come and rend you. So let's watch a little bit more of this, and then I'm gonna give you one. There's a bunch of scriptures that come to mind. I'm gonna hit just one scripture to show you how to properly teach the gospel. And these guys are doing it because the leadership, the IUIC, told them to do it. And like I said, these guys blindly follow the leadership of the IUIC. This has nothing to do with the gospel. And like I said, let me go over here. Oh, you got guys with long hair. What did the apostle say about having long hair? And what is the origins of the Church of Corinth having long hair? Because that was a custom, Greekish custom of that particular region, that the men had long hair. That's why the apostle Paul said, it is a shame for a man to have long hair. So are you following that? It also says that if you have an unbelieving wife, or you have a wife has an unbelieving husband, that they should dwell together. Now, if the unbelieving chooses to leave, or is pleased to dwell with you in their unbelief, that's all right. See, these guys teach that, these guys just blindly follow. That's one thing about IUIC. They give you direct orders and you don't question them. You're not the Church of Berea. You don't have the spirit of the Church of Berea, and you just blindly do what the leadership of the IUIC says. And the IUIC is going to be broken up. Going back to having, they teach part of their doctrine, not the Most High's doctrine, that if you come into this truth as a man, your woman's got to come into the truth. The scriptures say, let every man and also woman be fully persuaded in his own mind. So for you to tell a man that his wife got to believe and she don't believe, that's hypocrisy. Because if she believes, she's faking it. She really don't believe, but she's playing like she believes for the sake of her husband. That's mad confusion. The Most High is not the author of confusion. The having long hair, a man having long hair, that's in, was that 1 Corinthians 11? Matter of fact, let me bring that out. And anybody, and I'm gonna say this again, and if I gotta say this, next time we're kicking guys out of GMS, none of you guys are supposed to have these long braids and long hair and dreadlocks. So this is an order. Anybody that has these long, crazy looking dreadlocks, you got one piece of hair sticking up to the sky. We don't deal with that. That's out of order. If anything, you're supposed to look like somewhat like this man. He has a beard on his face, even though he's lost, and he has hair on his head. He's out of order, according to what the scriptures say. He's out of order, according to what the scripture said. Like I said, these guys blindly follow the leadership of the IUIC. They do not go back and research as to what the scriptures are actually saying. So let me get that. And then I'll close. Now, wait a minute. Okay. 1 Corinthians, I believe that's 11, but we'll find out. Okay. Okay, it says, 1 Corinthians 11, verse 14. Doeth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him. But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given her for a covering. Now, this is what I'm going to do. This is what the Edomite scholars say. Whether you accept it or not, whether it's true or not, bear with me for a minute. And the IUIC once said that the camp should stay in their lane. Just don't worry about us. Well, wait a minute. You should stay in your lane as far as those churches are doing. Whatever they're doing, why don't you stay in your lane? Complete. There's complete disorder right here. Come back. Bear with me for a minute. What the hell did I just do? Let me do this. Let me go to commentary. Then I'll refresh. Keeps. Let me do it this way. Okay, whether this is true or not, it makes all the sense in the world. Why would the Apostle Paul just get on men with long hair and say that it's a shame? That's part of the scriptures, man. You're in danger of taking away from the scriptures and adding to the scriptures. There's a Cambridge Bible for schools and colleges. I normally go to this one because it's short. They said, doeth not even nature itself teach you? This argument from nature must be pressed too far. St. Paul is speaking of the natural sense of what is fitting in those whom he addressed, which is Corinth, the Israelites of Corinth, which is part of Greece. In early times, the Greeks and the Romans, which are Edomites, wore long hair, and the Gauls and the Germans did so in St. Paul's own time. So Homer continually speaks of the long-haired Greeks. Saint Chrysostom remarks that those who addicted themselves to philosophy in his day wore their hair long, talking about the men. But this was mere affectation. CF, I don't know what that means. Horace, whatever. Abana pars non anguis ponir corret. But the general verdict of society has been that appealed to by the Apostle Paul, to instinctive consciousness of propriety on this point had been established by custom, What's the custom? In early times, the Greeks and the Romans wore long hair, and the Gauls and Germans did so in St. Paul's own time. So Homer continually speaks of the long-haired Greeks, which these were Jakes. You go back to the time of the Maccabees, that account, and it said they had to not circumcise their children, they had to dress in Greekish fashion, they had to wear hats, they had to eat pork, they could not call themselves at all a Jew, and the penalty was death. So when the Apostle Paul encountered these Israelites, and by the way, the people of Corinth were Israelites that were following the Greek ways of life. You know, that's why he had to, as the Apostle Gabar says, the hardest church that Paul had to deal with, the biggest headache was the church of Corinth. I got to go to that whole book again, because he had to tell them, look, a woman can't teach and have authority over the man. Men are not supposed to have long hair. Women are supposed to cover their heads. Well, what if you you come into this, you wake up to the fact that you're Israelite, you follow the Lord's statutes and commandments. Ultimately, what if your wife doesn't believe and she's an Israelite, but she doesn't accept it? Well, if she's not a believer, if she be pleased to dwell with you, then you stay with her. But if she decides to leave, that's on her. So what the IUIC is doing is breaking up families, because you have a lot of men that come into this thing, but their wives don't want to believe it. And they're instructed, look, your wife has to believe it. You're going to have to straighten her out. And I heard that they could be wrong. You can correct me, IUIC, that it's got so bad that I heard that you beat down their wives in order for them to get it. I don't know how true that is. I just heard it, out there on different videos. People that were formerly members of the IUIC that have left, and then they told, what they said. So if that's the case, that's clearly going wrong, man. If you have a wife that's an unbeliever, you can't tell her she could be an unbeliever. Let every man, or in this case, every man and woman, be fully persuaded in their own mind, and had become, well, that's all right. I'm not going to read anymore. Let me see what this says. Okay, this one. Okay. This is Bengals Nomen. 1 Corinthians 11:14, does not even nature itself, from which all learn very easily nature and its light concerning what is becoming. If he has long hair like a covering, for he is not commanded to be altogether shown disgrace. If he do that without any reason, for sometimes even hair becomes men. Numbers 6. That goes into the Nazareth vow. Samuel 14, let's see what that says. I can hardly see it. And when he had pulled his hair, that was Absalom. Acts 18 and 18. And Paul, after there tarried there, yet it's hard to read these words, they're so small, a good while, and then took his leave of the brothers and sailed there into Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shown his head in, what the hell is that? I can hardly say that. Again, I can hardly see that. For he had a vow. Now, what was that vow? That vow had to be number 6. Number 6 is a vow of the Nazarite. So trust me, these guys are not under a vow of the Nazarite. They're not under a Nazarite vow. So they're clearly going off. Another thing that IUIC goes off that's in the scriptures is you can't have more than one wife. Now, what if you're part of another Hebrew congregation and you had 5 wives? And you say, well, I see that there's, from watching the IUIC videos, I see that they have the full truth. So you come into the fold, and here you got the leadership telling you, oh, you got 5 wives. You ain't supposed to have but one wife. And she's supposed to be a believer. So what are they going to tell her? You're going to have to kick out 4 of them wives from among that union that you have. Now, what do you think those 4 wives are going to do? They're going to get with another man, causing them to commit the act of adultery. Like I said, the Most High is not the author of confusion. And the IUIC, and I'm not mad at them, I'm just telling they're going off. The scriptures speak about rebuke. Wait a minute, let me go to the precept. Let me put in the word rebuke. Let's see how many times rebuke is in the scriptures, mainly in the New Testament. Rebuke. I don't want to go into all these Old Testament. I want to go into a couple of scriptures in the New Testament. I mean, rebuke is written in the scriptures many times. Okay, it says here, 2 Timothy 4, verse 2, preach the word, be instant, in season, out of season, rebuke, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. Titus 1, verse, what is that? 13, I believe, 13. This witness is true, wherefore rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith. So IUIC is not, they look good, they dress up, they got the marches, everything looks like in order, but they're not sound in the faith. That's why you're supposed to rebuke them. These things speak and exalt and rebuke with all authority. No, let no man despise thee. As Revelation 3, verse 19, as many as I love, I rebuke and chastise, chasten, be zealous therefore, and repent. Because when you read Revelation chapter 2 and Revelation chapter 3, the Lord is getting through, John is getting on the 7 churches of Asia Minor, because they have good things that they're doing, but they each of the churches had a bad point. Now you can read it. You can read Revelation chapter 2 and Revelation chapter 3. And it'll cover all the good points, what they're doing right, but what they're doing wrong. And it's usually one thing. So, the leadership of the IUIC, they're playing with fire. They're calling on the name of Christ, not calling on the true name of the Lord. And to us, that's mass confusion. And if there's anybody in GMS that, window shopping, they're watching the IUIC video, they wishing that they're in with IUIC, go ahead and get with them. Go ahead and don't tell us nothing, just get with them, all right? You can have your long hair. You can get a t-shirt with fringes on it. This is mass confusion, man. Okay, so let me close, give me one last scripture. And this is how you teach the gospel. You don't You don't shove the gospel down somebody's throat. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. Many are called, but few are chosen. This is completely out of order. Not one of those people that confronted you say, oh, I want to listen to some more. You guys make sense. Every last one of them came against you. So what was you supposed to do according to the gospel of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and not the gospel of GMS, and not the gospel of ISUBK, and not the gospel of IUIC, and not the gospel of HODC, but the true gospel, which is in the scriptures. And I showed you a handful of scriptures where you're totally going off, so you're being rebuked. Let me do this. Let me look up the word rebuke. Okay, reprove. Let's look that up. To convict, refute, confute, generally with a suggestion of shame of the person convicted. That's what the Apostle Paul did. He reproved them. He said, you men shouldn't be having long hair. It's a shame unto you. Be by conviction, to bring to light, to expose, to find fault with. They have fault. I mentioned what, 3 or 4 different faults. You can only have one wife. If you have a wife, she's got to believe. If you have a husband, he's got to believe, or you got to cut him off. And what's ultimately going to happen? You're going to get one of the men in the IUIC. And you cause your spouse to commit adultery. By word, to apprehend, severely, chide, admonish. Admonish is a stiff warning, like a judge to say, if you have a gag order, if you say anything, I'm going to lock you up. That's called an admonishment, a stiff warning, meaning a warning with teeth on it. If you do this, then I'm going to do that. Reprove, to call to account, show one his fault, demand an explanation by deed, to chasten, to punish. See, the IUIC is of man. IUIC is of the world, and we're not. Inside joke. Okay, let me look up the word rebuke. I'm not going to let you listen to the Greek. It said to show honor, to raise the praise, to judge, award in the sense of a merited penalty, to tax with fault, rate, chide, rebuke, reprove, which reprove and rebuke pretty much means the same thing. Censure severely, to admonish, give you a stiff warning, or charge sharply. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm reproving you and I'm rebuking you. And that's an admonition. When we tell our people that they're Israelites, that they say, well, I don't want to follow it, I'm going to do my own thing. If we tell you not to take the charagma, which we push that out into the, into the world. So all the camps out there and all the people that watch the YouTube videos, when the time comes, when they set up them charagma stations, then they shall know that there has been a prophet or prophets among them. Then it shall be known who are my chosen. Many were called, but few are chosen. Okay, let me give you one last precept and I'm gonna close. Matthew, like you got the GOCC talking about Edomites and other nations can make it. Clearly, the Most High is clearly not dealing with them. You got Lahab, now he's Elder Lahab. He's talking about when we get into the kingdom after 1,000 years, Esau is going to regroup and take us down. He also teaches that Edomites and the other nations can make it. And if you say, when did he say that? He said it to me. I confronted him about, 3 years ago. And I asked him straight up, I said, are Edomites and other nations going to make it? He said, yeah, if they believe. So I don't know if he's still teaching that or he went back to his old ways. Okay, Matthew 10. Five and 6. These are the Lord, and this goes to us, commanded them, saying, this is the Great Commission. Go not into the way of the Gentiles. Don't teach the Gentiles. And then he said, the Samaritans and teach not. There's a reason why he separated the Samaritans from the rest of the Gentiles, because you had the Samaritans, that Gentiles that were living in Samaritans, that actually thought they were the direct lineage of Jacob. Read John 4. But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and as ye go preach, saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So who is the kingdom of heaven for? The children of Israel. Heal the sick, cleanse the leper, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. Provide neither gold nor silver nor brass in your purses, nor scrip for your journey, neither two coats, neither shoes nor yet staves. For the workman, we are the workman, is worthy of his meat, of his hire. And into whatsoever city or town ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till ye go thence. So they went to Earl, if you say it, the Earl, Arkansas, and they went to a church. According to them, they were on private property. So they were clearly wrong. None of them, wanted to learn. None of them wanted to accept it. None of them accepted your peace. So what are you supposed to do according to the gospel of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, B'Shem Kakwadash, and not the gospel of the IUIC? It says that when ye come into a house saluted, and if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it be not worthy, let your peace return to you. And whosoever shall not receive you, they didn't receive you, nor hear your words. They didn't hear your words, nothing but a mass of confusion. When you depart out of that house or that city or that town, shake off the dust of your feet. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in that day of judgment than for that city, that particular church. Now you might have went to the other side of town, they didn't accept you there. You don't force this truth down nobody's throat. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom. Now let one of you simpletons come up and say, you sound like you jealous of the IUIC. Why don't you stay in your own lane? You got a lot of simpletons in Israel, man. Shalom.